RCW.
Did we lose them?
42.30.1 and we
Sheila, do you see other people to promote to panelist?
No.
Okay, because I'm definitely not going to be able to do this one. You need to bring in the attorneys. I know they were all given the links.
Yeah, so the exec session is on link number 2 that I sent. So,
Oh, right.
so
Okay.
you'll want to leave this meeting. Yeah. But
Okay.
I guess the mayor, I don't know what happened to him.
He was having poor reception walking
Oh,
around. I
he
imagine
went-
he'll park himself somewhere and
He
Try
went
to
to
get
the exec session. He's in that meeting now.
Okay.
I believe he called it to order, but it was a little bit garbled.
Okay, thank you.
you think that counts?
I'm not sure. Let me ask.
Hey, Deborah, David already announced the meeting and went to the executive session.
You're muted.
So we should go to executive session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
of us. And we now have 4, 5.
Is this the same link for the 7 o'clock meeting as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
6, 7. All right. Council is coming out of executive session, and the chair will entertain a motion to direct the city attorney's office to file an appeal of the Thurston County Superior Court's decision dated July 22nd in case number 19-2-04781-34 to reverse the decision of the Growth Management Hearings Board and to take all necessary actions to effectuate the appeal. Is there a second? Is there a motion, I should say?
So moved.
Is there
Second.
a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember O'Kane,
Yes.
Councilmember Shrebnick,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember File. Councilmember File,
Yes. Yes.
got it. Councilmember Curtis,
No.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herbig,
Yes.
pass 6-1.
All right. We have 4 minutes before we can start the regular meeting, I believe, because that is set to start at 7 o'clock, or not the regular meeting. Yes. The city manager, the 7 o'clock is a regular meeting, correct?
No, it's a special meeting as well.
Okay, fine. Our city attorney seemed to think it was. Anyway, fine. So I guess since we're still in the special meeting, I don't know if we need to wait until 7 to start the next one. However, I did say we would be 45 minutes in, and so we shouldn't really start until 7 o'clock, which is 3 minutes away.
All right.
So take a break if you need to.
Can you mute Mayor Baker?
Yes.
There we go.
All right. Kenmore City Council is now in session. Let's go ahead and have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Shrebnick. Here. Councilmember Marshall,
Here.
Councilmember Curtis,
Present?
Councilmember File,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Herbig,
Here.
Mayor Baker,
Here.
Councilmember O'Kane.
Here.
All right. If I could have you all join me, please, in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And if there are no modifications, the agenda will stand approved as written. And I'm going to go ahead here, and I think this is probably a good place to do it, is since this was supposed to have been on the agenda, the B proclamation. And maybe we should go back and look at the agenda approval and modify it to get in a proclamation on the B. So if there are no objections, we will add the B proclamation to the agenda following the approval of the agenda. So if there's no objections, the agenda will stand approved again as modified. So whereas.
Excuse me, Mayor.
File,
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Baker, the Bee Awareness Proclamation is on the agenda. It's the Voters' Rights
and we
Act.
do not have a copy of that one. And the bee awareness is not on my copy of the agenda. So anyway, bee awareness is, whereas approximately 1/3 of food crops depend upon pollination such as honeybees, and whereas honeybees contribute nearly $20 billion to the value of U.S. crop production, and whereas an average honeybee lives for just 5 to 6 weeks, and in that time will produce about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey, and whereas honeybees have to visit about 2 million flowers to collect enough nectar to make 1 pound of honey. And whereas a colony of honeybees in the summer has 50,000 to 80,000 bees. And whereas honeybees travel 2 to 3 miles or more to forage for nectar and pollen. And whereas there have been several beekeepers with active honeybee hives within the city of Kenmore. And whereas we encourage residents of Kenmore to avoid using insecticides as much as possible and to consider planting pollinator-friendly gardens for the health of all of our pollinators. Now, therefore, the Kenmore City Council declares August 15th and Bee Awareness Day in Kenmore. All right. And like I said, I'm sorry, we are hunting, the city manager is hunting for a proclamation on the Voters' Rights Act, and he cannot find one.
Actually,
Councilmember File.
thank you, Mayor Baker. Our city manager, Rob Lindsay, has forwarded that proclamation to the entire council before the start of this special meeting. So maybe you'd like to check your email for
I
that
am
copy.
looking at my email, and I've been following his
Thank you.
stuff.
Maybe
So,
Deputy Mayor Nigel Hairbig has a copy?
yeah, the email that I have for him is, I have not been, this one is dated, time stamped 6:48 p.m. I have been unable to find a proclamation about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It went into effect on August 6th. And says you will provide some helpful info on the link. But we do not have a copy of the proclamation. And so the information about what happened on August 6th is in a large article, and I actually lived through that, so I remember it very vividly. Anyway, there is not a proclamation that has been forwarded.
That said, there's some really helpful information that the file provided. It might be worth mentioning. Just very coincidentally, over the weekend, I watched the movie Alma the second time.
I can't hear Rob at all.
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty bad, Rob.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear
So
me?
basically, the Voters' Rights Act broke down many of the formal and more ridiculous barriers to voting, and there are still too many barriers to the vote. And on August 6th, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law, breaking down legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevented African Americans and others from exercising their constitutional right to vote. Because of that law, one of our nation's most influential pieces of legislation, Americans who were previously the law was designed to ensure that all American citizens, regardless of the color of their skin, had an equal opportunity to make their voices heard. So discussion and the battle still goes on. 50 years, it's still not completely settled. And it's a frustrating day in America, and we really need to do everything we can to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to vote and everybody's voices are heard. So with that, the next item on the agenda is citizen comments. And this is an opportunity to express your views on issues that are important to you and to the community. And you will still need to be aware of the 3-minute limit. The clerk will keep track of that. And Tila, do we have anybody?
Yes, we have some hands raised.
Perfect.
Okay. Just a reminder to everybody, it looks like Samson Kong, you're on first. Please state your name and your address.
Actually, it's name and city of residence.
Okay, name and city. Please state your name and city of residence, Samson. Go ahead. Samson Kong. You unmute, you can give your comments.
Yeah, unmute.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Do you hear me?
Yes. Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. My name is Samson Kong. You see me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
hear you.
keep going. Your time's going.
Okay.
Samson, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear.
Are you do you want to say your comments? This is your time.
Okay. Now, actually, I have a short comment on that. We use that place for gathering 3 to 4 times a week. Besides that, we have a big gathering, something like each quarter is come up to 100 people there. So we go for dancing, for karaoke, for line dancing, all our cultural activities. What we have to, so we really want you guys do us a favor. Let us have some place to play with that. Stay there. You know, we are still, everybody will hear this news. Everybody nervous and worried. We still can stay there. So I think I just said, okay, I think you guys will fair to us. You know, we have been there since 2012. So almost 8 years, yeah. So we really want to keep it. Even here as COVID stop us going out, but maybe a little bit later we still want to go back there. So that's what my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kong.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Patrick O'Brien. Don't know what happened to him. Victoria Grayland.
Hello, I'm Vicki Grayland and I live in Kenmore. First of all, I'd like to thank the Bees and the Council for all your great work during this very difficult year. I appreciate the good job you've done managing these crises, and I truly wish you and yours good health. I hope you can get some self-care and some joy in your time off. Okay, that was the easy part of my 3 minutes, and here's the difficult part. I'd like to encourage the council in your time off to consider restructuring the council at this time. I've been attending council meetings for several years, and I've seen the behavior pattern of the current mayor during that time. I've been the recipient of his snark, but I've just shrugged it off. I kept my eyes on the prize and carried on. I used to think this behavior was harmless, but I'm changing my mind. Earlier this year, the city went through a costly sexual harassment investigation of his behavior. I applaud the council member who brought the complaint forward. It takes a lot of courage to do that, especially when the possibility of retaliation is present. The price of this was the cost of the vendor who did the investigation and the time of the staff and elected officials who testified. 3 weeks ago, at the end of citizen comments, the current mayor made a comment that he was disgusted by the comments. I can't imagine why an elected official would be disgusted by citizens politely and eloquently exercising their First Amendment right to speak. I can't imagine why a mayor would say anything like that, knowing that the business being discussed had at least 3 attorneys present. The council had a private meeting today before this one about possible litigation. I don't know what that was about, but if it was about that real estate issue, then those previous comments could put the city in a weaker and possibly costlier negotiating position. And last week's sorry, not sorry apology showed no awareness of the pain his comments may have caused. He said he apologized for the tone, but meant every word he said. Words matter. It was the words themselves that were the problem. I have no personal agenda here. I have no personal animosity toward the current mayor. I'm saying this because I believe the mayor's remarks do not reflect the values of Kenmore and do not benefit the common good. At this moment of the world, we need wisdom and thoughtful decision-making. So again, please consider selecting a different person to be mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grayland.
Thank you for your comments. Patrick O'Brien, I'm going to try again. Mr. O'Brien?
Hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Pat O'Brien, 6330 Northeast 181st Street. Yeah, I would like to support Victoria Grayland on her last comment. I was in attendance the night that Mayor Baker assumed the mayorship again, and it looked all like it was pre-planned, preconceived. We had a King County representative there to give him a little bag of treats and everybody a bag of treats. There was no public comment before he was proclaimed mayor yet again. And I believe that we need to find a new voice, a new leadership. I also have not heard back from the city on the problems with the asphalt plant, hours of operation. Now they're putting added chemicals to it that make the steam not even show up. You just smell it. It's overwhelming. It happened all afternoon today down the street from me. And if you want to save bees mostly fly on the flat. They don't like to fly up mountains. I would do something about the asphalt plant. It's been in operation as an antique. It has been upgraded against the rules that allow it to continue as a grandfathered facility. And I look forward to seeing some leadership at closing it down because they have broken the permit that allows them to operate. And then I'm also here to say no to the ADUs. You've had hundreds of letters saying that they don't want the additional dwelling units. It voids zoning. And basically, your neighbor could have 3, 2, 1 AUDs in their backyard. That is not fair to taxpayers. They're paying high property taxes. And then thirdly, I'd like to say we have a history of taking actions against minorities. On 181st Street, we had 2 Vietnamese guys that had their front lawns taken, and its parallel parking was installed at the city's convenience. We've got the Taiwanese people over next to Plywood Supply. Mayor Baker was in favor of supporting Plywood Supply on record, and they are facing or were facing eminent domain, taking a beautiful building that their family built 30 years ago. I went and looked at it. It's a fabulous building. It's well kept, and we don't want city vehicles parked next to the slough where they can leak gas, leak oil, and whatever else. If you want to take some land, take it from Plywood Supply. They got boatloads of it and have other cases of minorities paying excessive fees. One Egyptian guy on Arrowhead paid over $100,000 in fines to the city of Kenmore, and it was boasted that, oh, at least I got a large fine out of a citizen. That's not a tax revenue. That should not.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. O'Brien.
That should never be considered.
All right. Oops. Stop. Stephen Yoder.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Let me get your video too here. I got everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Mayor Baker, Council, Mr. Herbig, Mr. Carlinci, and Ms. Gardner. Thank you very much for all the work you do on all our behalf. I'm Steve Yoder. I live in Inglewood Shores condominiums in Kenmore on Inglewood Road. The reason I put my hand up this evening is regarding the decision on the agenda tonight for the 2 lanes or the 1-year delay with the additional cost factor. And quite honestly, I've got more questions. I'm looking forward to that part of the conversation and the meeting that's upcoming than I do comments at this time. I don't know what the deadline is for that decision. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Like I said, I don't know what the due diligence portion is going to be like to make that decision, or how much additional comment period there might be for the public on this very important decision. What I do know is the challenges that have been recently not enjoyed, but experienced by those of us that live in this community by the construction, which was expected. It varies greatly from day to day. It seems like there might be some kind of correlation between when the police are directing traffic and when the construction company is directing traffic. I'm not sure if any of you experienced it, but sometimes it's 3 lights off of 522 before you're able to turn south onto 168th. Or 68th Avenue Northeast there, because the traffic jams up and you just can't get through it. Hopefully this will provide another opportunity and a time frame that will not force additional costs in the reconsideration of the elimination of that right turn lane onto 68th, which I've commented on in the past, and I would still like to be revisited. I would hope that during the process of evaluating this decision that's upon you now, that hopefully it would provide an adequate opportunity to take another look at that right turn lane and elimination. That's all I have, and I thank you again for all your service to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. This person's name is just SCOT. I assume that's Scott. Is it Scott? Was that correct? Can you?
Oh, there. Okay, sorry.
Could you state your name and?
My name is Scott Chow, and I live in Woodinville, and I manage the 7023 Northeast 175th building that is under the I guess ordinance 200509, and we have a couple emails that the tenant sent over to the council last Monday, and it said read to the record, but those were never read. So they've asked me to read their letters. So I'd like to read those if that's okay with you.
Yeah, if you can do it within the 3 minutes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. This one is from, okay, it's Dear Kenmore City Council members. We own an upholstery shop located within the building at 7023 Northeast 175th Street that you are voting whether or not to acquire. A little bit about us. We have been there for over 6 years now and have established ourselves in the community. We are a family business with 3 generations working together. We live in Kenmore for 12 years. Our 3rd generation goes to North Shore School District. We have provided our service to Kenmore homes, businesses, and community buildings. We've even had past and present council members as clients. All to say, we live here, we work here, and spend here. As a multi-generational family business, we can appreciate what the Chai-Pathanaupung family is going through emotionally. To have such a close family working together over multiple generations to achieve their dreams and goals, now to have it threatened by the actions of a governing force is disheartening at best. Whenever the COVID-19 mandates forced our business to shut down for a few months, the Chai-Pathanaupung family assured us we are here to stay and not to worry about rent payments. I doubt the relocation assistance program is able to factor in the value of common decency as criteria when finding us a new location. Mayor Jack Crawford said, "Courtesy is contagious in Kenmore." It's up to this current council to ensure these words are still true.
Thank you for your question or for your comments, Mr. Chow.
Thank you, Council.
Elizabeth Mooney.
Unmute.
All right, we can hear you.
Okay. Can you? Hi.
Yes, we can see you too.
Okay, I live in Kenmore, and I'm coming back to talk to you about the asphalt fumes, which I came to, I think, in April, somewhere in there. We've been breathing them for a long time. So you are our city council, and you have many responsibilities in governing Kenmore. One of the most important is our health, our well-being, and the safety of our citizens. I, as well as others, have come before you time and again to speak to you regarding what I believe is an important health concern, specifically what I believe is the continued unmonitored release of fumes from the asphalt plant in Kenmore. In case people don't know, it's grandfathered in. Does not have to be up and regulated under modern health standards. The loophole. Aside from the permitting paperwork, we know little about what is contained in those fumes. We do know from other studies that in addition to carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, there are a laundry list of volatile organic compounds produced by batch mix asphalt plants. For years, I had to subject my cars to inspection to ensure that I was not exceeding emission standards for the good of all. Yet here in the middle of Kenmore sits a major industrial plant that has no environmental responsibility to the city. We know the plant smells, but I fear there's greater harm than that it may be doing. From my fellow citizens, I know they operate this plant at all hours without concern for Kenmore. These are not good neighbors. It is important to know what danger we are in. I think you would agree. The Puget Sound Clean Air Agency can only monitor the smell. That is not enough. We need to know, we need to test the emissions at the stack. Testing the emissions at the stack is what we are asking you, the council, to direct the staff to do. Hire an environmental consultant. If there is no problem, then I'll be silent. They will not test voluntarily, and I think we know why. We cannot exchange economic benefit, however slight that may be for Kenmore, for the health, well-being, and safety of its citizens. We know from the current COVID crisis that prioritizing the economy over health has severe consequences. So I implore you to use the resources of this city to find a way to ensure the health of its citizens. Test the fumes at the stack when they make asphalt product over a period of time. Hire a professional scientist. Use the volunteer citizens. Another member of our community has even formed a North Lake Washington Clean Air and Water Collective Facebook. I would be happy to help citizens join that.
Oh, thank you for your comments. Stacy? Stacy, can you state your name for the record?
And city of residence.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Stacy Valenzuela and I live in Kenmore. I came to the meeting tonight with just positives, but I don't know if it's going to completely go that way. I wanted to thank Councilman Faust and Chief Moen, North Utility District, that all came forward after I started on trying to find masks for the 2 senior mobile home parks here. And I had gone through King County and the library and everywhere else. And I am picking them up tomorrow and handing them to the seniors. So that is a great thing. Previously, we had some of the residents that were sewing masks donate them for us. And they're also donating the hand sanitizer, which is awesome. The other thing is that I do love the pavement that is on Simon's Road. I think it's one of the nicest jobs that I've seen, and I wanted to make sure that the council knew that. On a different note, I applaud Vicki Grayland for coming forward. I concur with her concerns, as sadly I too have had snide remarks and brush them off. It really bothered me once others noticed and said something to me after coffee with council or a meeting. It feels like it's a little degrading and that my points are unworthy, possibly because I'm an outspoken woman. I don't know. But I would like to see that change, definitely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Vin Keen?
Hi, good evening. It's Vin Keen. How are you?
Good.
Hi, I'm Vin Keen. I live in Kenmore, and I will start by also appreciating the work of City Council and the staff during these difficult times. I also want to thank the staff and the city for the effective and proactive communication efforts, both related to bridge construction and the other issues that face us here. I think that they've been very effective, and I like them, so thank you. I live 2 blocks from the Juanita and Simons intersection, and I am heavily dependent on the Sammamish River crossings. That being said, I wanted to support the recommendations of city staff for option 2 and to reduce traffic to 1 lane in each direction on the northbound bridge. I believe that maintaining the current construction timeline and budget is the most responsible approach today. I do recognize that will cause added difficulty and probably some swearing on my part. That's on me. Please move forward in the most efficient manner. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Alyssa Chow? Alyssa? Miss Chow, it looks like you're unmuted. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, sorry, my internet's probably pretty slow, but good evening. My name's Alyssa Chow, resident of Kenmore, graduate of Inglemoor class of 2015. Just wanted to talk to the council today and say my thoughts, but during these unprecedented times where many of us cannot be in person and in the same room, I'm grateful that the City Council has created a space for all of us to connect as a community. It's been really cool to see the community come together. But I would like to raise some concerns that I have in regard to a couple past meetings and overall transparency on Ordinance 200509. Condemnation of property to 7023 Northeast 175th Street. We had a number of community members that had taken the time to write emails on July 27th to express their concerns and opinions in relation to this ordinance. They had explicitly outlined that in their emails that they would like to be read into record. While I understand that reading these might take a lot of time during meetings, the time that they put into these emails was not acknowledged anywhere. None of these were read, nor were they posted anywhere available to the public. In a meeting on July 20th, there were great suggestions and ideas about including all these comments in an agenda packet or in minutes. However, for the past 2 meetings, those emails and comments have not been shared. I want to express my concerns about citizen comment and being acknowledged to the public. In addition, I would also like to ask for more transparency into the motion that was brought on July 13th. The motion made by Councilmember Curtis was to postpone Ordinance 200509 for a month until issues can be addressed. This motion was passed unanimously, and we are very grateful for that reconsideration. However, since then, we have not been given any clarity or insight to what those issues are, how we can work with the city, nor has the city at all attempted to reach out to us in any other way than negotiation to continue to move along with this condemnation process. Additionally, we are not sure how this decision is going to be made because the deadline for the 30 days is August 14th, and you guys are council is on recess and for the whole month of August. To us, it feels like there has not and will not be any critical evaluation or reconsideration in understanding the value of this property to the community. I ask the council members to be more transparent, communicative, and clear with us and the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, David Teeny.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I am a resident of Kenmore. I live on the essentially the south edge, close to Arrowhead, between Arrowhead and Morelands, almost exactly in the middle. I am not in favor of incurring the additional $2.5 million. I would be okay with the 1 lane either direction across the bridge at this time. Even now, even before the bridge project, it's already 1 lane essentially all the way from Kirkland to 522. So I don't think that's going to be much different. I would only suggest that perhaps there can be some mitigation with the signal at 175th and 170th, perhaps. Some maximize the merging on the lanes there because it does back up. And other than that, again, I would just be in favor with 1 lane either direction and keep it on budget, because it is a trying time at this time. I also want to just comment, listening to comments, is that I love trees, and I've had trees on my property. I've had to take some down, not because I want to get rid of them, but I love them, and I love the bees too. I like watching them. But I also, one of the things that the trees have been here before I've been here, and I think as long as the asphalt plant is in compliance with the law, whatever it should be, and the plywood people, they're paying their taxes, they're doing their part. I think we should not necessarily gang up on them, because I'm assuming, and I'm pretty sure they're going to pay more taxes than I'll ever pay in my lifetime. So I just, I like your smile, Nigel. Or maybe that was the setting, but in any case. So anyway, that's all. And best wishes to you when you make this decision.
Thank you for your comments. Ray Hanashiro?
Here we go. Okay, I'm unmuting myself. So I'm talking to you with regard to ordinance 200509. And I'm wondering about your timeline, your protocol, and your process for responding to some of the concerns that were raised, specifically the rating system. There were some questions about how the properties were compared and how they were rated and how the scores were assigned. And I haven't heard those concerns addressed. I'm also wondering about the environmental impact. Concerns about that have been brought up, and there has been no response about how the city council will address those concerns. And I'm wondering if your responses could be part of the public record. You've heard my reasons for not condemning the property, and I won't repeat them, but those are my additional concerns. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Patron Sintepidon?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you might need to speak up a little bit.
Okay, okay. How is my volume right now?
That's good.
Cool, okay, I'll try to belt. Thank you all for your time. So, hello to the council. My name is Patron Sintepidon in Kenmore, and I am here to join the many voices that are discussing Ordinance 20-0509. So, I'm the grandson of the owners of the property currently under consideration. I recognize that the city has a pre-existing need to find a viable location for the public works structure. And while I support the continued growth and the success of this city, I have to adamantly request that the council reconsider this particular property's acquisition. Not only do I believe that the timing of the ordinance is unfair to the family, but I believe that the council has not fully considered the significance of this property as a gathering site for local businesses and some of the events that happen there. So just to give some context on what I'm saying, the property is home to a Chinese ballroom dance community, which I know has been brought up a couple times before. And a section of the greater Seattle area's ballroom dance community is also involved there. For me personally, I spent my middle school and high school years learning there. So I'm actually a ballroom dancer, and I've been there for a while now. My grandparents, Samshai and Vilai, are the owners, and they're also ballroom dancers. And their desire to host other dancers and lessons and social events at this venue is the reason why such an ordinary warehouse is being used actively for dance events. I also take issue with the timing of the ordinance, which was proposed after the whole global lockdown and pandemic situation. The proposed benefit of a more public works facility to the city does not necessarily outweigh the value of a source of income to local families during a situation like we have now. I believe during the July 13th meeting, the following counter argument was made to some of the arguments on my side, which have been saying that the city has been in negotiations with Winsome since 2019, meaning that the COVID situation doesn't necessarily have relevance to this decision being made now. Personally, and I hope you will come to see my side on this, I believe that that statement comes across as just a little bit tone deaf, because it is unrealistic to propose that an economic freeze on this scale has absolutely no strain on the families involved. If any family before were unwilling to sell, then they're absolutely not going to be willing to sell now. And putting these families in this situation now creates extra strain that didn't have to be there in the first place. We've seen a lot of pushback on Ordinance 20-0509, and I'm not the first voice to be here, but in my opinion, this is a reflection of how other people feel about the situation. Eminent domain is a powerful tool for civil development, but it has to be used responsibly as well, so that it can minimize negative impact. The family is unwilling to sell because it's still a regularly used space for other businesses, other nonprofits, and for other gathering events during more regular situations. So its utility and its importance remains crucial to all of us, and I hope that the council members will be able to take this into consideration when they vote on the ordinance. So thank you so much for your time, and have a great evening.
Thank you for your comments. Anne Kahanen. Ms. Kahanen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. I live in Kenmore. I live on 68, right across from the Inglewood Golf Course. And I have two comments. One is I would say that I'm in favor of moving forward on this bridge project without delay. Just get through it and not increase our expenses. And the other thing, I just have a concern now that the bike path is being expanded or improved along 68. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I know that it's part of the bridge project as well. I have a concern about safety with that, and I'm hoping that maybe the council can look into safety for bicyclists and motorists along there. The bikes come whizzing down that hill, and I pull in and out on 68 all the time from the apartments I live in, and I'm concerned about possibly more use on the bike path with the improvements and the safety of bicyclists being hit by cars, especially if you are coming down the hill and turning right, you can't see the bikes coming from behind you. So just putting it on the radar of looking into the safety of that. And that's all I have today.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Jasmine? Jasmine? Can you state your name and city you live in?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Oh gosh, you can't see me. Hold on. Okay, you can see me now. Hi everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Jasmine Hawkins and I live in Seattle. I'm an Inglewood High School class of 2015 graduate and I grew up in Kenmore. I've had the privilege of knowing the family in ownership of the property located at 7023 Northeast 175th Street for the past decade since I was 13 years old. I graduated from UW with my BS in bioengineering and I currently work in biotech on creating therapies for treating cancer. I want to voice my concern in regards to ordinance number 200509. I am extremely saddened with the proposed ordinance. I want to share one of my personal memories I've had at the Tri-Potonopong residence. I had the opportunity to attend a cultural event at this property with my close friend Alyssa, the granddaughter of Somchai. I remember the abundance of people dancing, laughing, the smell of the delicious food, the conversations among elderly at the tables, and the beautiful pictures hung on the walls of dancers amongst their family and the Chinese community. What I remember most clearly is the feelings that I had at the residence. I felt joy and a deep sense of community in that room. I went onto the dance floor with Alyssa to learn ballroom dancing. Members of the community approached and greeted me with a warm smile. They easily welcomed me into this community, and the memories that I have at this residence are truly ones that I cherish and carry with me to this day. I recognize a public works facility is very important to serving Kenmore. I also recognize that this property holds very deep personal and emotional significance to this family. Nearly 40 years of family ownership is truly not something that can be replaced. It is a legacy that is passed down from generation to generation. It is a home space that connects this family with community and community with each other. It is a place where relationships can be built, they can be strengthened, and they can be thriving in the city of Kenmore. This space symbolizes family and it symbolizes hard work. It represents what immigration to America looks like: sacrifice, perseverance, and hope. I am asking you as city leaders to honestly consider the serious, painful impact you will have on this family and this community if this land is taken away. The impact your vote has on this matter has the ability to break trust between this family and this city, between this community and this city. Your decision will have an impact not only on the owners, their children, and their grandchildren, but also on generations to come in this family. So I'm asking that you make a decision from a place of empathy and grace, and you make the choice to vote against this ordinance. Thank you very much for your time, council members.
Thank you. Pat Sintepidon.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. Dear Kenmore City Council, I want to thank you for giving me your time today. My name is Papson Tepidon, one of the many grandchildren of Mr. Somchai and Mrs. Vilai Chai Patanapong. Mayor Baker, your snide remarks a few weeks back were personally offensive to me and my family, and I digress and continue to urge the council to vote no towards this ordinance 200509. You know, I grew up in the city of Kenmore, attending Lockwood, Kenmore Junior High, Inglemoor High School, and UW, and being able to graduate with the BS Industrial Engineering. That's a true American dream. I'm very familiar with the Lakeside City. It's provided me a home for so many years, a home that my grandparents were able to create for their entire family and future generations. They sought for a better future and opportunity for their children. And because of the city of Kenmore, I'm born and here speaking to you today. I hold a lot of honor and pride in my family name, being the oldest son of the second generation and the oldest grandson of the first generation of an immigrant family. Not only have I been taught to lead with honesty and also respect, but those are the principles you yourself, once you lead with those principles, you'll gain that. You'll live an honest life and gain the respect of others. But pride itself can be a selfish word. So let me rephrase it a little bit and say how proud I am of my family. I only need to direct the members to the immense outpouring of love and support that has come to our family side over the past few weeks. It's support that is filled with love and respect. This support is the absolute result of the teachings that our family lives by and has also continued to pass down from generations to generation. You know, I won't dive into the technical details of why I object of this ordinance because I'll let the support do the speaking for me. You know, growing up in the United States as a minority has proven itself with many sets of challenges. You know, this property is not only a significant step in our family story, but also still proves to me that that American dream is alive and real. 3 generations later, we still call the Pacific Northwest and Kenmore our home. I myself am proud to see what our family has achieved. To condemn this property, taken away from our family, would be taken away from the opportunities that this city has provided us, you know, immigrants from Asia. So I thank you for your time and urge you to vote no for this ordinance 200509. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Joan Marie Hughes. Ms.
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
How do I don't see myself? Let's see, maybe I can. There.
There you
Hello.
go.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Mayor and council members. My name is Joan Marie Hughes, but I'm here speaking on behalf of my son, Ian Hughes, who lives in Seattle. He was unable to attend tonight, and but he has known this family since, well, all of his life, actually. And he loves them dearly. And this is what I'm saying on his behalf. Dear council members, city council members, and mayor, thanks for your time. Regarding ordinance number 200509, condemnation for the Public Works Maintenance Shop with the near absolute authority to use eminent domain in our state, this is not an issue of legality, but rather an issue that surrounds the council's obligation to serve the Kenmore community. Please consider the following city's evaluation of Kenmore properties. Lake Point development of 50 acres has languished for over 30 years. Bothell Kenmore Reporter reported on November 12, 2018, that the Lake Point development talks collapsed with Wiedner the developer. Based on Weidner's plan, the 50-acre Lake Point project is likely being quote unquote reserved for future high-income apartment and retail buildings. Should future plans materialize, this would be an excellent addition to the city's tax base and image, though it is inexcusable to hold 1.5 acres out of 50 of this potential project in lieu of an existing Kenmore family self-made American dream and legacy. In the same 30-plus year time frame, the Chaipatnapong family has made an unwavering commitment to foster the Kenmore community around them. The property in question is the realization of the city's values, supporting up to 7 small businesses and free cultural community gatherings. Based on December 9th, 2019 meeting agenda, the city pursued a property that's over 4 acres, but was abandoned after encountering environmental issues and opposition from 5 neighbors. The proposed condemnation of Chaipatnapong property for public workshop has widespread community opposition from both small businesses and city residents. This begs the following questions. Does it matter which community opposes? Was environmental concern the primary reason for abandoning the previously considered 4+ acre property? Based on the same December 9, 2019 meeting agenda, a pressing need for a new public works site is not expressed in the quote unquote project narrative and justification. There is no evidence of urgent need in city records in regard to the new public works location. Future 10-year expansion plans mentioned in February 5th, 2020 site selection memo may require a more permanent location, but it is inappropriate to enact eminent domain during these uncertain times for a 10-year projection. Using the city's
Thank you for your comments. Your time is up.
Thank you so much.
Nadia Silver. Ms. Silver?
Can you guys see me?
Yes, you can see you and hear you.
Okay, I've got it mostly written down. When you're ready.
Go ahead.
Hello, I am Head Witch Eldris Nadia Reina Silver. I live in 18230 70th Lane Northeast, Unit 206 in Kenmore, Washington, 98028. I have a few remarks, and I'm going to start with a condemnation of my own. As a BIPOC small business owner in Kenmore, Mayor Baker's initial remarks, in frustration of course, and following apology were insensitive, lax, insincere, and as a white cishet male in an actual place of power and business owner himself, clearly showed his privilege. I expect more of a representative of Kenmore, even in an apology, even in a motion and a moment of frustration. He well knows, you will know that Mayor Baker, that every single thing is recorded. So you are allowed to be frustrated, but there is a right and wrong way to voice your frustration. You need to make a new apology because that last apology, it's not going to do it. Next, I'm adding my voice to Ordinance 20-09 against the condemnation. Please find another location. I'm a BIPOC and they are BIPOC, and I'm a business owner. This is not okay. All right. It's hard for a player out here in this world. And to make it even harder by doing something like this after they've achieved everything, after they've done everything the right way, that's not fair. Find another way. I'm in favor of current plans to continue construction on the bridge, moving to 1 lane until completion is necessary for financial reasons and also logical reasons. I want mental health and support locally. I want to follow up on the mental health and support progress. I'm reiterating the difficulty and lack of access for those who use public transportation, like myself with PTSD and anxiety, and my son with depression. It's just, we have to go miles and miles to get any kind of help, and it would be so much easier and so much more effective if it was closer in here in Kenmore and accessible. I request to reach out to LGBTQIA+ community support, businesses, small businesses, nonprofits, whomever, to provide more support to us as LGBTQIA+ in Kenmore. Again, we still have to go miles and miles out to get that sort of support. Currently, I go to Bothell, and know how much you guys are in competition with Bothell. So, and then the next thing is I want BIPOC support. Same. And I'm following up on what support has been done so far. We talked about the police, but what else can be done? There's always more that can be done.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Silver. Your time is up.
I was finished.
Anita? Anita, can you state your name?
Yes, I just unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hi, City Council members, and thank you, the Mayor and City Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My comment is regarding the ordinance 2509, the property acquisition by condemnation. I'm the daughter of the owner, and we met on July 13, and you were graciously voted to postpone for 30 days. I'd like to find out, or I guess this is a one way where, how do we the process, how do we get additional information to you if you have questions? You have heard from many of the community and also the neighbors of Kenmore regarding this building. I have a letter from our tenant that she couldn't join on July 13 because of the Zoom was maxed, so she sent us an email. And this is from Kristen Rowley, and she rents a unit from us. She said that I am a business owner and I want to express my concern about the ordinance 2509, which would negatively impact my business were it passed. I have a metal fabrication business that custom fabricates metal guard rails and handrails, and the unit I've been listing is an ideal, affordable location for its size with adequate space for my incoming and outgoing material deliveries, and which has the proper electrical requirements for some of my machinery to operate. The economic uncertainty due to COVID alone has put my business in jeopardy, and being forced to move would have a compounding monetary and time impact on it. I know my business neighbors in this building share my sentiment, and we would greatly appreciate a reconsideration of this ordinance by the council and further investigate into other available properties that would be adequate for the Kenmore Public Works facility. Thank you for your time, Kristen Rowley. Again, this building has been in our family for a long time. We have this facility available for small businesses so they can create an ideal dream, just like what we have. I believe that this is the only large size that accommodate in Kenmore. By having these businesses relocate, they would move out of Kenmore. There's no other location in Kenmore for them. Please don't make them move. They love it here. It is a neighborhood city. We want our people to like where they are. Many of them been with us for years, 6, 7 years. The last tenants were with us for 17 years and until he retired. We thank you for letting us learn about your community council. I've never seen it before until the last month, and thank you for all the work that you do. There's so much work involved, and I know that every decision sometimes may not be as transparent, or the issues up to you as transparent as it could be. And this is a platform for us citizens that can voice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Irene V. Irene?
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. You still can't see me though.
No, I can't see you.
I've been trying to put my face on, but okay, let me see. There
you go. Yeah, we can see you.
All right. Hi, my name is Irene Boone. I'm a former resident of Kenmore. First of all, Tila, thank you for doing an awesome job. And hello, Mayor Baker and all council members. I want to thank you all for the service, for your service to our community, and also taking time to hear our comments. As well as I want to thank you for delaying the voting for ordinance 20-0509, condemnation to our family property at 7023 Northeast 175th. I would also like to thank you, all the community, people we know and people we don't know in person, for all the support. It has been a humbling experience for our family. I would like to urge the City Council to again review and reevaluate the selection process. And tonight, I'm going to read a letter from a friend. Her name is Kim Vick, who is a Washington licensed professional geologist, and she has worked as an environmental consultant in the Seattle area for 30 years. Her letters cover a lot, and I only have 3 minutes, so I'll do my best. I'll just do a section of it. And this is particularly referring to neighboring properties, and the referred property 1 is our family property, which is subject to condemnations, and property 2 is an alternate option. So based on her, this is her letter. Property 2 was scored 1 and property 1 was scored 3. I'm assuming the higher the score, the lower the impact of neighboring properties, because the city is going to select the property with the highest score, meaning lowest impact. In this case, the score making no sense, and I am wondering if this was an inadvertent error. Property 2 is surrounded by commercial properties. Property 1 is bound on the east side by the residential area, which is considered a sensitive receptor. Property 1 also has more wetland on the south portion of the property. Property 1 is clearly has more environmental sensitive receptors than property 2. The biggest being the resident on the immediate east. Being an environmental consultant, I know the risks involved in operating vehicle maintenance facility as I have assessed and cleaned up many of those properties. Based on the information attached to the city memorandum, the proposed public works shop will be storing and handling hazardous material and chemical. Pesticide and fertilizer and petroleum products and solvents are often associated with vehicle maintenance operation. They are considered a risk to human health and the environment, and to have such a facility immediately next to residents' neighborhood has a potential to have significant environmental impact that should not
Thank
be.
you for your comments, Irene. Your time is up.
Thank you, and please consider.
Min Lang. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Mayor and City Council member. My name is Min Lang, residing at 7333 129th Avenue Southeast, Newcastle. I'm here to support the Sunshine family concerning about the audience number 20-0509. And I'm here to share with you 3 of their family story to give you a good picture how hard they have been working for their American dream 40 years ago. Number 1, many times after they delivered their merchandise to the customer in California, they had to drive back to Seattle right away because of their limited resources and tight schedule. They had to eat their meal on the run and could not afford to rent a motel to stay for the night. And number 2, to have a dinner together, the whole family, it was a luxury thing because either no one had the time to cook the dinner or someone is still working in the office to meet the deadline of the contract. And number 3, this one is a little bit personal to the Samchai family. The Samchai family works almost 7 days a week, long hours. And it happened once that Mr. Samchai was in the restroom. He was so tired and he fell asleep. And he fell off from the toilet bowl and hit his head on the floor. So you can see the Samchai's family American dream did not come easy. They had made a lot of sacrifice for it. And this property is not just a piece of land to them. It is their dream, their pride, and their root, in the United States, for an immigrant. And every year, the Sumchild family celebrate their New Year's Eve party with friends and employees at this facility. Everyone come to this party to greet each other, have a good time, and get ready for a prosperous new year to come. This facility also found a center where people from other cities like myself to come to practice my dancing, singing, and organize other social activities, such as celebrate a birthday party, a fundraising for a candidate that run for a state representative, for example. And I urge the City Council to put yourself in this family position and imagine the destruction and unfairness caused by the condemnation of the property that you have worked so hard to build for your family. I know there's many options for the City of Canmore to build its maintenance facility without ruining the Sumchild family and several small business owners who are leasing their office space at this facility.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is up.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
Joy Peters. Joy Peters.
Philip. It's actually Philip. This is her computer.
Okay.
Computer. Okay. I just thought this was going to be about the bridge work, so I'll be really fast. I concur with your shifting all traffic to the other bridge. We did that. I worked for county for 30-some years. I've been retired for 15. But I was in road construction and maintenance and all that. So anyway, the only problem you might have, and I put this in an email to the mayor, I don't know if I did it right, but the only thing I can see is you may have to, you have 3 signals within a half mile that are, they more or less work off the loop and they're independent. If you interconnect them, you may be able to help that factor a little bit. It's been done before with other projects that I was on, but you're doing a good job. Keep it up. See ya.
Thank you for your comment. Nat. Nat.
Hi, good evening, City Manager, City of Kenmore Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Natjari Jutikun, and I am a member of the Thai community in the Washington state. I would like to voice my support to the Chai Pattanapong family regarding their property at the 7023 Northeast 175th Street, Kenmore, Washington 98028. Mr. and Mrs. Chai Pattanapong have been heavily involved with the Thai community. They are very supportive and benevolent. Ms. Anita Choi is an honorable advisor to the Thai Association of Washington, whose support to the association is immeasurable. On many occasions, the family has allowed many groups of Thai communities to use the facility as venue for seminar, for lecture, and fundraising. They also have contributed in many ways to the Thai community at large. They joined the community to financially support a terminally ill teenage girl. The generosity has fruitfully brought the girl back to wellness again. The family is one of the anonymous patrons to the Buddhist temples in the area. The remarkable works of philanthropies are endless. They did not wish to be advertised for the work they have done, and they did wish nothing in return. Those on the receiving end are deeply grateful for their kindness to the less fortunate. I would like to implore the city of Kenmore to reconsider expropriating this property. The impact to the small communities is immense. Thank you very much. My name again is Natari Jutikun. I am a chairperson of Board of Directors of the Thai Association of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Katie Leung. Katie?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you state your name?
Yes, hi, I am Katie Leung, and I'm here to let you know, somehow I don't see you and my screen got frozen. But anyway, if you can hear me, I just going to say what I want to say. I'm here to let you know that we are in support of the Champatalapan and oppose the selection of their property as the new public works maintenance facility. My husband Key and I are regular at their Asian culture dancing studio, where we have been adopted into their loving community. We visit their studio about 3 times a week for approximately 2 to 3 hours each visit to learn new dancing routines as our means of exercise. However, the dance community is more than just a place to dance. It's a second home that provides immigrants such as ourselves a sense of belonging and a place to learn more about each other's culture and experience. As our community is filled with diverse backgrounds as members from China, Hong Kong, Thailand, Vietnam, Taiwan, and Malaysia, and Germany, just to name a few. Hobby, great friend, and a loving community are hard to come by. And we are fortunate that Champatalapan generous offered their studio to us and the other 100 community members as a place to create lifelong friendship and to preserve our culture and roots. Please take this into consideration and do not condemn the property. It's one of the few bright spots in these dire times. The community needs the Champatalapans and the dance studio now more than ever. And to get a little bit personal, I am raised and born in Saigon, Vietnam. I have never had a chance to pick up any sports as young child, and our 3 children's sport were our sport, our hobby. And then we don't get to pick up this dance until we met Master Somchai, that he offered us free lesson so we can go dance and being healthy. And we call dancing for health. And then for our 3 children, we are empty nester, that they are very happy for us that we found a place that we can be being exercise and being healthy, and just that when they're away from home, they know their parents are very happy and being with friends in a special place. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm sorry my computer didn't work and don't get to see you all.
Well, we heard your comment, so thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Very much. Thanks for your great work. Thank you.
Ava? Ava, can you state your full name, please?
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Eva Sintapadon, a resident of Kenmore for 27 years. It would be, dear member of the Kenmore City Council, thank you for the time and the opportunity to state my comments. There were a lot of repeats that some of the comments has already been kind of said before, but just to recap some of the issues that were raised about the property on ordinance 020509, that currently there are 7 small businesses on the property, which all of them are being induced in accordance with the regional business zone intent, offering employment to about 40 employees. So that's quite a bit of number of people that you'll be affecting. And then the cities taking the property would greatly disrupt their businesses, throw them and all their employee out and turn the property into a public works industrial facility instead, both of which go totally against the city's own zoning intent on and also subject more than 20 residential neighbors to the east of the public works industrial activities to hazmat material which will be used and stored on site, such as cleaning solvents, motor oil, pesticide, de-icing chemicals, and all that. So some of which would surely and unavoidably run off into the large wetland area and onto the Sammamish River and on and on. So that is pretty concerning. Besides the site selection that people already mentioned that is just problematic, which I hope that the city council would look into. There's just other issues that hasn't been mentioned. For example, with the city's fully equipped fleet of heavy-duty maintenance vehicles, the residents east of the property, Lakewood Villa, will largely suffer negative impact from operations noise, certain level of chemical toxins like hazmat materials used and stored on site, all that, and from in and out traffic that can be 24 hours a day during severe weather. So that is in the picture. In addition, according to the proposed conceptual site plan, vehicles are designated to park on a pervious surface of the property without environmental consideration of possible toxins leaking, polluting our groundwater. Paving the existing gravel pervious surface would lead to a self-violation of codes exceeding pervious impervious surface ratio requirement. So we would not have to say much about the large pocket of wetlands south of the property. Human and nature suffer from similar industrial threats. So there has not been a traffic study proposed on that stretch of Northeast 175th Street in front of the property. There's pedestrians, runners, bicyclists, cement trucks, flatbeds, forklifts loaded.
Thank you for your comments, Eva. Your time is up. Sandora T. Sandora?
I'm here.
Can you state your full name?
Hi, my name is Sandora Tiburcio, and I am calling in again for the Chaipatanapong family. I'm calling on ordinance 205009. I just want to double check you can hear me. Is that right?
Yes, we can hear you.
I lost visual for everybody else. Okay. For the benefit of Kenmore citizens, I state for the record the following data points regarding this ordinance. I heard one of the city council members in particular mention during the closing statements on July 13th, 2020, that they wanted to view this ordinance through a racial equity lens. That piqued my curiosity. What is the diversity of Kenmore? I looked it up. It's 80% Caucasian and 20% racial diversity. It is with that diversity in mind that I ask you to provide equitable fairness to your selection on the matrix. The data is faulty. For example, they listed the subject property with a 0 score that was not even on their scale of 1 to 4. The subject property total should have been 75. This would have made the selected property number 2 choice. I ask that the council do the right thing, total the scores appropriately, and assign the proper values. This would result in the Chaipatanapong property to not be selected. For Kenmore citizens' benefit, I want to restate the property is owned by a Kenmore resident of almost 40 years. We've heard from all three generations, some of them very passionate tonight. I want to say, I think that all of these citizens and their children are doing a fantastic job of speaking up. This isn't a community that normally seeks out and participates vocally in this type of citizen comment section. I've never done it myself. I think it's important. I think that what is happening to this family is wrong. On 7/13, over 140 people showed up as Zoom participants, letter writers to City Council and the mayor, and Zoom speakers
Thank
on the
you for your
family's
comments,
behalf.
Andorra. Your time is up. Linda Wu. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you as well.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Mayor Baker and members of the Kenmore City Council. My name is Linda Wu and I reside in Bellevue. My comment tonight is a question and concern about the property at 7023 Northeast 175th Street that the city wants to acquire under threat of condemnation. On July 13th, the council voted to postpone taking action on ordinance number 200509 for further review and a more thorough vetting of available properties with an equity lens added to the matrix used. Aside from tonight's special meeting, my understanding is the council will not meet again for the rest of this month. My question then is twofold. One, will you consider all of the input that has been submitted, both in writing and orally, and answer the concerns that have been raised about the selection process, as well as the concerns about the site itself? And two, will you be providing the answers in a public forum at a future council meeting so there is complete transparency and an opportunity for public input? You've heard from more than 100 citizens opposing the ordinance. Like the others, I also oppose the ordinance. There is no question that there are valid concerns about this proposal. This property has been owned by the Chai Patanapong family for almost 40 years. It is a symbol of perseverance and resiliency. It is a site that is home to small locals, and it is a place that is a gathering spot for the Asian community in the greater Puget Sound region, a place that reflects the city's growing diverse population and addresses some of its needs. I hope city officials and the council will spend this month carefully and thoroughly addressing the concerns raised about the selection and scoring process as it promised to do. In doing so, I believe you will be able to find a solution that can meet both sides' needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Alex? Alex?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Roya Gorodyetskaya. My husband is Alex. I'm using his computer. I wrote a letter and requested that it would be read into the record, but it wasn't, so I'd like to summarize it now. During the first council meeting concerning the property acquisition, I was encouraged to hear the deputy mayor say this obviously isn't just a warehouse. I really wish that all of you would have been able to attend one of these gatherings pre-pandemic. The photos on the walls inside the building show the family, cultural, and community history all the way to the country they've made home, right here, literally building their dream. The owners have kept this space available for small businesses that may not be able to afford larger, more expensive places. They provide a space for a nonprofit to do their work without the burden of rent, which would severely hinder their ability to continue the work they do in the community. Just to enjoy friends and family members, they use the building to host parties where my family and I get to listen to music sung karaoke style, often in their native languages. My kids and I get to applaud dancers for their performances and enjoy the infectious positivity from the group dances when it's just everyone, young and old, dancing whatever steps they like. I truly love this place. My family loves it, and I know I can speak for everyone who comes here. We would all grieve the loss of it. I'm sorry. Please try to see this building as a community gathering place, an example of small business supporting small business, a legacy of what a family can make for themselves in this country and this city. All things that Kenmore says it wants to continue to foster. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Janie Lee. Janie Lee. Are you there? Janie Lee? Okay, it looks like we can't hear you. We can see you though. Still can't hear you. Nope. No, not yet. Still can't hear you. We do have another person with their hand raised, so we can come back to you. Alex Evans. Alex Evans.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Alex Evans. I'm a resident of Seattle. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of Washington. License number 138538. I've looked at the property on the MLS, which I have access to, and I've done separate comparative, just out of curiosity, regarding ordinance 20509, and have identified other properties that are pretty easy to show comparatively. However, I just wanted to take a minute to actually read the definition of condemnation. It is the government's constitutional power to take private property for public use as long as it pays compensation to the owner of the property. Taking property in this way is called condemnation. The government's power to condemn property is called the power of eminent domain. Before the power of eminent domain can be exercised, the following requirements must be met. 1, the proposed use must be a public use. That is, it must benefit the public. Taking property for a public park would qualify as public use. In cases of mixed public and private benefit, the question is more difficult, but generally there is no authority for the government to take one person's land for the sole purpose of turning it over to another person. And the second factor for that is the condemning entity must pay just compensation to the owner. As a general rule, just compensation is the fair market value of the property. The public record that I can see on my end hasn't been updated actually in 3 years. So something to think about. I also wanted to finish Sandora Tiburcio's statement that she was unable to finish. So on 7/27/2020, over 120 people logged in, wrote letters, and spoke up on the family's behalf, even though some of the letters for other ordinance have been provided to the public for viewing on the Kenmore City Council's website. The letters for this ordinance are missing. Where did they go? Are they being silenced for political gain? For the record, again, it was mentioned on the 27th that many of the residents in the mobile home are elderly and they are against the ordinance but do not have the ability to Zoom, likely may not have internet access, not really sure. And the health, safety, and well-being of this group and people will be affected. They will be next to toxic chemicals and noise. The environmental impact will be negative to the salmon spawning. It sounds like the asphalt plant all over again. And then just to circle back and talk about fair market value, the city of Kenmore has had a city official go to the property and say that it was a done deal. So that's the commercial space and the mobile home park. How do you arrive at fair market value when you're taking opportunity away from future generations, business, land ownership? I can see from my end, they have a really particularly specific piece of land that actually has
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Evans.
No problem. Thank
you. Rowena Solomon.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Rowena Solomon. I live in Mukilteo, Washington. And I read last week the writings of Keenan Williams. But just for tonight, I just want to let you know that since the July 13 meeting, I subscribed to the Kenmore City Council meetings on YouTube. And 3 weeks ago, there were only 60 views of that July 13 meeting. And I looked and there were 601 views of that same meeting. And I first want to say, I'd like to urge you to vote no for the ordinance condemning the Chai Patanopong property. But I also am curious to know how many people zoomed in tonight. I'm one of those supporters who sat at those meetings week after week together with you. I saw Curtis wearing a tie. I saw Nigel's little kitty. Sorry about that. And I saw the transition from Tila to Kristen. I can't remember her name. So I'm sorry, there's a car, a panic button. Anyway, I appreciate that you guys sit and listen to us. And I would like to have a comments from you about how the impact of so many supporters logged into the Zoom meetings, because we want to show the support and we want you to do the right thing. The criteria for choosing the property for condemnation, I urge you to look at this not just from an equity viewpoint, but also from a widened lens of diversity as well as equity. Thank you for your time. That's it.
Thank you. John? John, are you there?
Mute. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes. Can you state your full name and your city?
Yes. John Miller. I'm a Kenmore resident, and this is my first Zoom council meeting. I'm wondering when we're going to get to the agenda item regarding the bridge.
Mayor, you're muted.
That will be coming up shortly, but you're free to comment on it now if you would like.
Well, I find all of these topics interesting, but how, again, it's my first meeting, how long do you go with open comments, which are all very important, but the bridge issue is also very important. I did submit some comments prior to the meeting. One regarding my suggestion that I forget now which option it was, but the option as far as keeping the north and southbound one lane equal so that we can move forward without cost increases. And also my curiosity about whether or not we're monitoring the construction company and their lack of wearing masks and how that might impact the overall schedule. I've commented many times to the city about their lack of wearing masks when they're not able to social distance. And the comments continue to come back from the city, which I appreciate very much, are that they're following the rules. I walk daily through that area and they're not following the rules. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. Miller. Looks like we have a concerned citizen. Could you state your name, please?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Ricky Choi.
Which city do you live in?
Can you see me? Hi.
Yes, we can see you.
Which city do you live in?
I am a former resident of Kenmore. I currently live in Portland, Oregon.
Thank you.
Yep. So let's see. So thank you, City Council, for what you do. I felt that everything that needed saying has been said, i.e. the unethical abuse of eminent domain, lack of transparency and logic throughout the process, environmental concerns regarding the site in question's proximity to the slough, unfortunate timing of the City Council's decision to condemn the property, overall tone-deaf decision-making, and finally Mayor Baker's unsavory behavior. Therefore, I will speak for myself. Unlike most immigrant family stories that you hear about, my dad and all of my cousins' parents, his siblings, not only came to the US to give their kids a better life than their home country could offer, but in order to give us that better life, the American dream life, they effectively had to give up their own youthhoods. My dad and his siblings started working for my grandfather since they were in middle and high school, respectively. And as we have all experienced firsthand, these are grueling, sometimes hostile, formative years. My dad would have been a great Boy Scout or artist or graphic designer, but instead he gave up all of that so that my brother and I could have a better shot at being those things and much, much more. Of course, my dad nor his siblings would speak much to this since they had an unparalleled work ethic hammered into them early on, for better or for worse. So I guess I'm speaking for them here too. In taking away the property in question of Ordinance 20-0509, I want to remind you that you are taking away a symbol of the grit and hustle that immigrant and BIPOC citizens especially are forced to embody on the day-to-day, not only so that their kids can be Boy Scouts or graphic designers, but so that their future generations can survive. In this regard, property is generational wealth. Not only that, property might just be the most American form of wealth. And by taking away our family's property, you are putting the security, sense of community, and wealth, both cultural and financial, of future generations, that's me, and the communities it serves into question. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, Elaine Everett.
Let me get my video on. There we go. I'm Elaine Everett. I'm a Kenmore resident. I originally came to this meeting tonight because I wanted to encourage you to support the second option regarding the bridge. I've listened for a long time about the situation where you're attempting to gain property for the Public Works Department. I know how important it is to have space for public works. I'm also really surprised that when I went to research and read up on it as people were talking, that I didn't see any reference to the additional value of what this property has meant for the Asian community and the number of people involved. Given the community value, given the businesses, employees, not to mention the family history that seems to go with it that is so important, I would encourage you to look for a different space to vote against this particular ordinance and to seek an alternative. As I said, I know it's important. I just don't think this is what we want for Kenmore. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Everett. We do have one, Felix Choi.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Hope you guys are all having a great night. Thank you for having me on today. The first time that I made an appearance on this council, you guys read my letter, and the first time I kind of covered the ecological point of view of this ordinance, the coronavirus and timing point of view, the scoring criterias, and just the community that's all based around this this property. And I am super appreciative that you guys took the time to read my letter. The second time I made an appearance here, I zoomed through my strong belief that eminent domain doesn't have a place in current and future law due to its unfortunate but very true inclusion of racism and classism throughout past court decisions. And there are so many people on this call that have put all of these things that I've already said in a much more eloquent way than I have and that I can. So I think that before the August break, the best thing I can do with my time here is just to thank everybody that has shown up for me and my family and continues to do so. And it's amazing that you guys are showing up, and it's amazing that there's no sign of stopping. We are continuing to do so and will continue to do so. And it goes from my cousins that have spoke tonight, my aunts and uncles, my mother, Irene, my sister that just spoke, Ricky, my cousin Pap, who nearly brought me to tears, and you know, to the entire Tiburcio family who spoke throughout multiple sessions, to the Hughes family, to the Solomons. I can't express enough gratitude towards all these people of different cultural backgrounds that have come together for this cause. So for this one, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the council for listening. And I hope you guys vote no on Ordinance 200509. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. We have one phone number that's called in, and I want to check with them to make sure they didn't have any thing to say. So 425-287-8819. Did you have any comments?
Tila, this is Terry. It's just so that I can hear the council member.
Okay. Thank you. That's the city staff. All right, so that is all the hands we have raised for comments.
Thank you all for your comments tonight. They're very much appreciated. And we'll move on now to the next item on the agenda. The B proclamation is here, but there is no proclamation. So the business agenda, the West Sammamish River Bridge Project, girder delay, Mr. Vincenti.
Hello, Mayor, Council. First I want to say that I have pretty lousy Wi-Fi connection here this late at night. So if you lose me, just wave and I'll stop and wait for everything to clear up. So let me share my screen here. I've got a presentation. Oh, hey Tila, can I get authority to share?
Tila?
Yes, when I figure out how to do that. Okay, it should work now.
Cool, thanks. Okay, share. Okay. Can everybody see that? Okay, sorry, I'm just getting my screen orientated. All right, So I'm here to talk to you tonight about the West Sammamish River Bridge project and some issues we're having in regards to delivery of materials. So before I get into the situation, I just want to give a recap of how this project is being constructed and why this is a problem for us today. So the project itself the plan for construction has been focused around our 3 fish windows. As a reminder, our 3 fish windows are July 1st to August 31st in 2020 and 2021, and July 15th and August 31st in 2022.
John, sorry,
yeah.
could you please explain a fish window?
I was just going to get to that.
Comment. Thank you.
I was just going to get to that. So a fish window is the authorization that we get from our permitting agencies that says when we can actually touch the water. So any activity that we have that involves putting any kind of equipment or any kind of material into the river, we can only do between those denoted periods, which we call the fish window. So there's a lot of activity that needs to go on in the water as part of this project. We have to do the temporary platforms, which allow the contractor to build what they're building. We have to do isolation areas so that we can get equipment into the location for the foundations of the bridge. And then we also have to get into the water to remove all of the old foundation from the current bridge and the bridge that was there before this one. So before we can do those activities, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in advance of that. What the contractor has been doing to date is getting everything ready so that for the 2021 fish window, they can move all the traffic from the southbound bridge onto the newly constructed half bridge that we're constructing today. But before they can do that, the contractor has to, of course, build the platforms, build the foundation for the half of the bridge they're building. Then they have to place the girders on top. Then they have to build the bridge decking, pave it, put up safety barriers. They need to do all the transition work before and after the bridge. Then they need to move the traffic over to the new bridge. Once they do that, then they can start demoing the remainder of the bridge. And they need to do all of that before June 30th, 2021. Because on July 1st, 2021, they need to start getting into the water to start building the platforms for the next construction portion of the bridge. So gives you some context as to why the fish window is important and why the contractor has limited options on how they can build this project. Everything is geared around this fish window. So with that in mind, our original schedule showed that traffic would be switching to the new bridge around June 2021. And this project was bid in October, November 2019, before the COVID-19 pandemic occurred. When the COVID-19 occurred, the manufacturer that's building our girders, our concrete girders, that's Concrete Technologies, they were required to scale back their operation to conform with the governor's orders. That slowdown in operation caused a delay in their delivery of those girders. That delay translates into about 2 months for our project, and a 2-month delay misses our 2021 fish window. And the reason why we miss that 2021 fish window is because given all the activities that the contractor has to do, they can't get done what they need to get done to meet 2021. To meet the schedule that they had before COVID-19, they had to work long hours, extra hours, weekends, nights. That was all part of their plan. And they don't have any more fluff left into their schedule to absorb 2 months of delay. And so by missing this fish window in 2021, we looked at several different options, and now we're looking at pretty much 2 options that we find are viable. The first one is to extend the project by 1 year and request a 4th fish window. Again, that would be in 2023. The second option would be to move all of the traffic off of the southbound bridge put them onto the northbound bridge, 1 lane each direction for approximately 10 months. The contractor's estimating that would be about January 4th to October 31st of next year. Where's my mouse? Sorry if there we go. So option 1, requesting the 4th fish window. There are pros and cons to this. The biggest pro that we have is that we would be able to maintain 2 lanes in each direction on a periodic basis. We still would have to have regular lane closures as part of the operation. If you've happened to drive across the bridge anytime recently, you've noticed that just about every day they have to take a lane southbound. And on occasion, given the level of construction, they have to take 2 lanes. That would still occur with the option 1, However, with the extended delay of 1 year, they wouldn't necessarily have to take the lanes as much as they would have if we didn't have this delay. Another pro is that we can maintain traffic flow consistent with what we're doing today. So kind of no surprises. You know, what you saw yesterday is what you'll see today is what you'll see tomorrow. The downside to all of this, we would need a 4th fish window. That would require us to bring our consultant back to work with all of the permitting agencies. Every single one has to be discussed with. That's 13 agencies. We have to go back to National Marine Fish Services and get their approval for revision of the BIOP. If you remember, the last time we had to do a revision, that took 6 to 8 months. So before we could even get the 4th, or before we could even proceed with the change, we need to get their permission. I have no, I believe that they would give us a 4th fish window. However, the annual, I think the biannual contract they have with the federal government has already lapsed, and there's a new contract that they have, a new agreement they have to hold to, and we would wind up being held to those new requirements. So it's hard to say if there would be changes to our permits because of that. So that's one of the risks that we have. Another con would be, of course, a 1-year delay in the project completion. Instead of being done September 2022, it would be around September 2023. That 1-year delay would leave about 10 months of minimal to no activity on the site. If the contractor cannot get that June 21st fish window, the bridge work stops. If you can't build the foundation, you can't build up. So until they get to the next fish window, they can't build the bridge any further. They can only do some minor activity to the north and the south. Unfortunately, with that delay, the cranes stay on site, but they now become on standby, and that's a financial loss to the contractor. And they've indicated a financial loss because of that. Also including additional costs for our construction management services, our inspectors and whatnot, additional costs for our consultants and staff. We're looking at about $2.5 million in additional costs to delay the project for a year. Option 2, maintaining 1 lane in each direction. The pros on this would be we would complete the project without additional fish window. That is something that we would prefer to do, because going back to the agencies could change a lot for us. It's a safer work zone with 1 lane in each direction. We would have the same traffic pattern for that entire period versus today, where each day you don't know what you're going to find, and you have to learn how to drive through that project site just about every single day, figure out how you're supposed to get through. Whereas with this option, it would be 1 lane each direction. They would not take any additional lanes, and so it would be very predictable. The intersections might be a little bit different, but getting through this site would be fairly similar every day during this period. Also, the contractor on the first option, for them to build that bridge, to demo and build the remainder of the bridge, they would have to have equipment passing over existing traffic. And that would require them to stop traffic every time they have to haul something over with the crane. So as they demolish something, they got to stop traffic and drag the removals across. They bring something new, they have to stop traffic to bring the new equipment over. They can either stop all the traffic or they have to move it over to the northbound bridge. So during those instances, we're going to see a significant amount of one lane or traffic stoppage, or one lane each direction. The majority of the road work can be completed in June versus September. The contractor is saying is they could speed up operation and have most of the bridge done by June versus the end of September. The nice thing about that is it gets it done just in time for the summer, when everybody wants to have fun and not have to deal with construction. There would still be some periodic lane closures here and there for irrigation work or for some other aesthetic work like painting or something like that. With this option, we're estimating that we'll have an approximate net savings of about $500,000. This is due to the fact that we will no longer need to have any temporary infrastructure put in during the different phases. So if we delete that, then we save about a net, like I said, a net savings of about $500,000. We also would have reduced night work activity. The original plan required significant amount of night work to keep up with the fish window. If the contractor can do all this at once, they've indicated that they don't have to do a lot of night work, so that would make it a lot quieter for a lot of the residents who live nearby. We'd also have reduced environmental impacts with adding this extra, or with switching the lanes to one lane each direction. This changes the temporary platform they need, and they do not have to put in as many piles into the river and into the wetland area. They can make the platform a lot smaller. And so this reduces the impact to the river. It requires a lot less fish exclusion. So we reduce our risk of harming any of the fish. And then getting things done a little bit quicker is less, it's less, it's less, gosh, can't think of the word now, I'm sorry. They'll have less emissions, because they'll be done sooner. They'll still be doing the same amount of work, but with the other option, they're stretching it out. So they're running equipment longer than they normally would. There's also no additional cost from the contractor. They've indicated that if we go with this option, they'll do it under contract to keep us within budget. And then the contractor has also stated that if we go with this option, they'd be willing to accept their original bid for the additive work that we had in the project. If you recall, when we awarded, or when we advertised this project, we split it into two sections. One was the bridge replacement, the west side bike path, sidewalk, the east side sidewalk in front of Rhododendron Park, utility undergrounding, street lights, landscaping, architectural elements, all of that. The additive bid was extending the queue jump northbound, north of the bridge to 175th, and building new sidewalk and a planting strip along that area. The contractor's bid for that was approximately $1 million, and they're willing to honor that if council wishes to do that. They are under no obligation to honor that bid, but they're willing to do so. The cons: traffic congestion will increase. It's going to be worse than it is today. If COVID-19 ends, it's going to get unpredictable. Don't know what's going to happen when COVID-19 ends, if people are going to be sticking at home, or schools are going to open, or if it's going to be an instant everyone back to work. Can't really say what's going to happen, but my guess is that it will get a little bit worse. On the other side, if we went with the current plan, we were going to have a lot of closures anyways, a lot of lane closures. I think the difference between the option 2 and what was originally proposed won't be that much different, but it would definitely be a little bit more difficult. One of the ways that we're looking to mitigate for the traffic woes that will occur with one lane each direction would be to put officers at 170th and 175th intersections to help control traffic through the work zone. We would not put an officer at 522. It's a little dangerous for the officers to do that. And so we probably would do our best to control at 175th and 170th. I will throw out a caveat that usually we can get officers, but once in a while we can't. We have to go through the guild or a few other sources, and sometimes nobody wants to work overtime. But so far we've hadn't had any issues with getting an officer. Also, sometimes when an officer is working intersection, if there's an emergency call out, sometimes they have to leave to respond to that, and then that leaves the intersection uncontrolled, which can be problematic sometimes. Another con is, and I mean, I call it a con, but with the reduction in the cost, we increase our risk of having to return grant funds due to a lack of eligible expenditures. The $500,000 potential savings, if we did not award the additive bid, we would then have to find that much more in expenditures on the project, or we'd have to return the money back to the granting agency. Let's see, so financial impacts. At the award period, council approved $3,030,141 contract contingency for this project. That contingency was going to be covered by $1.46 million in Connecting Washington funds and $1.57 million in city dollars. If option 1 is approved, we'll have about $500,000 in contingency remaining. That would mean that we would have expended all of our Connecting Washington funds and almost or up to $1 million more of the city dollars. The problem with option 1 is that does leave us with the $500,000 in contingency, which is it's high risk for us to leave the project with that much contingency this early on. My guess is 500,000, could get burned up fairly quickly if you run into another problem. We still have the other bridge to build. We're still underground utilities. We still have to deal with lighting and signals, and who knows what we might run across. We haven't even broken ground on the northern part of the project, so we don't know what we could encounter in those areas. If we were to burn up that additional 500,000, council would need to either look at making cuts to the project or approving additional city dollars to help fund any changes. If option 2 is approved, we would have about 500,000 in additional savings, which would raise our contingency to 3.53 million. That would increase our Connecting Washington funds that have no expenditures allocated to it to about 2 million. If we were to award additive bid 1 at 1.017 million, along with our change orders to date, which are $32,000, we'd still have about $2.48 million in contingency remaining. Of that, 0.91 million is Connecting Washington and 1.57 would be city dollars. The 2.4 million is a fairly comfortable amount of contingency to have this early on, and we would still have almost $1 million in grant funds that we would still have to go against any changes that may occur on the project without having to use city dollars. Option 2 gives us the benefit of we have the greater potential to return city dollars that could go towards other transportation projects like walkways and waterways or sidewalks or whatever we may want to use that money for. And I also want to note that the Connecting Washington funds may only be spent on the bridge project. If we do not spend those dollars, they have to go back to the state. We could potentially ask them to divert them to something on 522, but that would be the only place that they would allow it. Since we asked them to move the money from 522 to the bridge, I don't think they would move it back. That's my guess. With that, are there any questions?
I cannot see the whole group with your sharing the screen, so just bear with me. So if council's got questions, if you could please raise your hand so I can see here. I'm not seeing any hands.
Joe
Yes,
Marshall.
Councilman Marshall.
Yeah, how much of the grant funding then could go to offset in option one, that 2.5 million, which I take it is all for the crane docking?
So, yeah, the 2.5 million is for the standby time for the crane, the contractor inefficiencies because they can't do certain activities all at once. It's also for additional consultant costs, inspection costs, and city staff. That 2.5 million, we can use all of our remaining grant funds, the 1.46 million, towards that, but we still would have to use city dollars that were allocated to the project to cover the balance.
What's the potential amount of money we'd have to return?
In which scenario? Option two?
In option two.
No,
yeah. Or is
yeah.
it option one where we're going to return grant dollars?
Option one, we would expend all of our grant dollars. Option two, we would return. It would depend upon whether or not you agreed to approve the additive bid item. If you chose to award the additive bid item, we run the risk of having to return 0.91 million in Connecting Washington dollars. If we do not award the additive bid item, we run the risk of returning about $2 million in grant money.
Also, on the traffic control, I understand that the traffic officers at 170th and 68th, at that intersection there, that you do need a policeman in order to direct traffic through a red light.
Correct.
However, there's absolutely no communication with 522. There's no flagger down at 175th. There's no flagger or no communication with the flaggers there at the boat ramp with any of the delays that are being seen on 522. Either left-hand turn people going from the right 8 side southbound on 68th Street that block the whole intersection with their boat trailers, or cars that are just tired of waiting in the left turn lane, or the right turn lane that gets backed up. So how do you propose for a year to maintain communication and stop backups on 522?
So we have a few options that we can employ. One, of course, would be having the officers at 170th. We can also put officers at 175th. I feel that with option two, we're going to have officers at both locations, just giving the location of where the one lane each direction will be situated. Right now, we have flaggers that are routinely at the boat launch area. We can put a flagger there during boating season and have them help vehicles get in and out of the boat launch. I'd have to talk to the contractor about how coordination works with the officers between 175th and 170th. I'm not sure how the officers do that. Regarding 522, there's not a whole lot we can do there. The best we can do is trying to get the traffic through 170th and 175th as quickly as possible to alleviate the impacts onto 522. My experiences with the officers regarding traffic control on something like SR 522, they do not like to put their officers out there unless they don't have to, because it's a highly dangerous situation for their officers, given the volume of traffic and the speeds out there.
Okay, I just think it's imperative that you have communication with 522 because there's no reason for the state highway to get continually blocked the way it has been.
And we're continuing to have conversations with the contractor on how to make things better. My understanding is that with the more officers at 170th, things are flowing a little bit better through there, but there's always room for improvement. Unfortunately, there is a limit to what we can do. The officers can only do so much with all the construction activity going on with the bridge and with Juanita. So there's always going to be a backup, a delay. What we can do is try and minimize it as much as possible, but we can't get rid of it. It's just not going to be possible. And another thing that we did, I'm sure you've all seen it, we put variable message signs on 522 east and west, alerting drivers that there's going to be construction, expect a 30-minute delay, and to look for alternatives.
Yes, I have noticed that, and yes, there is 30 minutes delays because I'm stuck in them.
Been there before too. I was extremely frustrated because I had to sit at 522 for 2 lights. Then I had to sit at 175th for a light. Then I sat, I think, 3 lights to get to 170th. But that was because at that time, I believe an aid car was going through. So they'd stopped everything for the aid car.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah. But it got through really well. I could see it all the way up Juanita just coming down, and everyone moved over and it worked really nicely.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands. All right, if there are no more questions, then
I'm sorry.
John?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's one thing I did want to mention. I sent this to Tila just recently because I totally forgot to. But during the last couple of days, in addition to the public comment that we received on the bridge today and through the emails that Tila had forwarded to you, I also received an additional 21 comments in support of our option 2 that's recommended. And then I received another comment, but I really wasn't sure what option they were preferring. It was a little vague. So just want to let you know that there's been a lot of activity from folks regarding this topic, and I have been receiving some preferred options. But on my screen, I've got approve option 2. My recommendation is to approve option 2, reduce traffic to 1 lane each direction on the northbound bridge, and approve award of additive 1, the queue jump sidewalk work. If that is not your preference, I also have an alternative action to go with option 1. So, and that's the end of my presentation.
So I'm just curious, how do you plan on handling the traffic light at 170th and 68th? Because you've got 3 different directions it can go. And right now people get in the left-hand turn lane and are very confused and stop at the intersection because they don't want to turn left, backing up the traffic behind them. And now you've added a right-hand turn in the mix also. So how are you going to keep traffic moving at that intersection given all the changes?
That's where the officer comes in. What we'll wind up having is 1 lane each direction all the way up to 170th. On Simons, we will have left turn, straight, right turn. And then on Juanita, it will be 1 lane north, 1 lane south. During some of the construction of Juanita, it will be just 1 way only. So that will be the pinch point in that regards. But having an officer at 170th and 68th, they'll be able to look and see how the traffic's flowing and making sure cars are getting through, assisting with emergency vehicles. They will also have the assistance of the contractors, flaggers for helping drivers get in and out.
So then southbound at 170th and 68th, you're only going to have 1 lane open for those going south across that intersection. So that 1 lane is either going to turn left, turn right, or go straight ahead. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you're going to have an officer there, hopefully, from what time to what time?
Officers should be there from start of construction to the day's end when they're done doing construction.
Okay, when they're through doing construction, are you planning on having more than 1 lane at 68th and 170th?
No, we're going to have, no.
And how are you going to handle rush hour?
So rush hour.
Rush hour we have with 1 lane and people having 3 alternatives as to which direction they go. And that means the left-hand turn arrow is going to be done away with, right?
So the left, are you talking the signal or in the pavement?
I'm talking at the signal. You've got 1 lane of traffic at 68th and 170th.
Yeah.
That normally has a left-hand turn arrow and a green straight ahead. Are you talking about getting rid of the left turn?
What we would wind up doing is removing we'll have to think about it more closely, but we'll most likely have to remove the left-hand signal itself. And just make it a green ball so that cars go in, they're going to have to yield as best as possible if there's no officer. If there's an officer there, then the officer would overwrite the signal and have them move in all the directions possible. Normally what they do is at this type of intersection, this type of configuration, they would have one direction going at a time. So southbound would go all directions possible, northbound would go all directions possible, eastbound, same thing, westbound, same thing.
So it sounds like that the afternoon rush hour from 4 to 5 could be a real nightmare because there'll be no left turn arrow and nobody to direct traffic.
So at the rush hour, there will be someone directing traffic. My guess is that we'll have an officer there from about 7 a.m. to maybe 6 p.m., maybe later, depending. We're not going to have officers go home at 4:30 or 3:30 because the contractor's done. We're going to want traffic to get through there as best as possible. We won't be able to have officers there around the clock, but we can definitely have them there during the rush hour peak periods. And we're also going to make sure that the contractor during this period cannot take any lanes. One lane each direction. They're going to have to work around whatever it is they're doing, and they can't have one lane only. But it's going to be difficult. Not going to lie to you. I don't like this option, but I like it a lot more than option 1. And it's a tough choice. I understand that, but we brainstormed this thing, and we just don't see any other way that's in the best interest of the public and the project.
All right, are there any questions? Councilmember File.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Thank you, Mr. John Vicente, for putting this together. I know this is a complicated issue and there's a lot of concerns at different levels. Just to be clear for our community, the sensors at the lights on Simons Road and Juanita Drive, 68, have NORCOM sensors, do they not? That help pass through traffic if fire and aid is released?
Yes, the signals have an octagon on that signal at 170th that is fully operational. If there are no officers there, then that light would shift to a green to guide them through intersection access. If an officer was there, they would just direct traffic like they normally do, stop everything and let the emergency vehicles go.
Thank you. And then for officers in the evening, you know, our north end, our technical quarter, we tend to work late. And most a high traffic community goes up to 7 p.m. I would want to see an officer on site at least until 6:30 or 7 to help move that traffic along. We know this is a thoroughfare for people trying to escape tolls, yet, you know, it's going to be a bear getting people through. And in my opinion, I much prefer saving our city and our community $2.5 million than to drag this out and cost us more at a very critical time when we don't know there's going to be extra funds available down the road. You know, we live in a critical time, and this is just an unfortunate complication related to the COVID pandemic that has delayed the production of the bridge girder. And so, being that said, I really prefer option 2, as it really does best protect our multimodal routes of transportation, our environment, and our fiscal responsibility. I do prefer it with the alternative step at the end there. That's not otherwise part of our current contract. That seems like a win-win for Kenmore to add additional pedestrian and bike safety. That addition the contractor is willing to add. So I would support that. And in all of this, because we in Kenmore like to look for the fun in Kenmore, we have to find some fun in this funky predicament that we have. And I would absolutely suggest that we consider decorating those not so attractive cranes during those winter months and the holidays. I'm sure that maybe the contractor might be able to work with us on that, it certainly would be nice. Thank you.
Definitely mentioned that to Terry Bielenberg, our project engineer on this thing, and she's gonna find out what we can do to make it look interesting during the holidays. So not too sure just based off the types of cranes, but you never know. I want to address your concern about traffic impacts later in the evening. Much like what we've gone through the last 4 months, it's been an iterative process learning about how the traffic's impacting and the activities. What we're going to wind up having to do is when we put an officer there, we're just going to have to monitor and watch and see what's needed. And we will have officers there as long as we need to get that traffic flowing as best as possible.
As long as you're communicating with 522.
Yes, I can't say what the hours would be. It's going to be just dependent upon what we see when the time comes.
Councilmember Curtis.
I'd like to make a motion to approve option 2 with awarding the bid for additive 1.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. I'm concerned.
I'm sorry, could we stop presenting?
$1 million possibly. Yes? Who's?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the sound. I don't know if that's on my end, but it's very fuzzy. Yeah, I'm going to be supporting this. I saw obviously all the comments that we saw, both written and oral. We got many comments, and I also polled a number of people that I knew, quite a few people. And while there was some mixed opinion, I think the general idea was, since this is going to impact mostly during COVID, to go ahead and bite the bullet and do the shorter, more fiscally responsible choice, option 2.
All right, Councilmember Marshall.
I got to say, I am concerned about, of course, reducing the traffic capacity and closing it down to a 1 lane either direction. It's definitely a tough choice and dependent upon this factor over which none of us have any control over. But I suppose that if we're actually not looking at a return to normalcy soon, or even not until like next year in the school year, perhaps. I'm thinking the buses going to Inglemoor, think of all the traffic there. Yeah, we may not even be there yet. So perhaps it may be the best idea to try and get something done as efficiently as possible during this time when we've got less traffic.
Councilmember File.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. I would want to ensure that we would have a healthy communication between our surrounding schools, our colleges, and the hospital on the other side of us, Evergreen. I think that's really important to our people of Kenmore and to our surrounding stakeholders who would be definitely impacted through this change. But I believe working together, we can muster through it. I have to say that I will be directly impacted, as many others, through this change, and going through a process of it twice a day, every day, for a number of years until this is finished, as we have 2 college students who attended college just on the other side of wanting to drive and in Kirkland. So that being said, sometimes we have to do what's best fiscally for our city, best for our environment, best for our multimodal routes of transportation, why we grow together.
So one of my concerns is ambulance and fire truck traffic on 522. If it's 1 lane in each direction, that Opticon sensor at 170th can't be seen by the flashing lights on a police car, a fire engine, ambulance. until it gets closer to the intersection. And if you have both lanes filled with traffic, there's nowhere for traffic to pull over. So I'm very, very concerned with that unless we have a flagger there. I just, it seems like it's not well thought out. So I'm a little concerned. Councilmember File.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. This is one of those questions I had asked early on, and also inquired a little bit more deeply with our police and fire chief. What I did hear on this issue is that they are monitoring these intersections on camera, and that through their CAD system that's on their real-time GPS location in their units, they can locate their vehicles and work together, coordinate better. I understand also that the NORCAM update to these sensors along Juanita Drive and 68th help us here with this. And if I'm not wrong, Mr. John Vicente, didn't we just install an updated sensor at the intersection of Inglewood Road and Simons and Juanita Drive there?
I'm not positive on how old they are, but we did talk with the fire chief about the Opticons at 153rd Juanita, Simons, and this estate, and they said they're operating perfectly right now. We have no concerns or issues.
Deputy Mayor.
The last thing, excuse me, Mayor Baker, thank you. The last thing is that I did request that the response time, the NOVA response time data be calculated for the response from the two fire and aid coordinated response on the Kirkland side, which is part of the issue here. If we can't get to a situation from our Kenmore side, the coordinated effort has to come in through the other side. And I know that data is in. I just haven't heard an update applied to our council on that for response time.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Vicente for for showing us our options here and working through this. I know this wasn't easy for any of us, and I know that when I had my one-on-one where this was presented, I was pretty disappointed with everything because, this project has hit, and it's not staff's fault, but this project has hit kind of multiple little things like this. Like we had the delay caused by the Trump shutdown, that caused us to back up going out to bid. So we've hit multiple weird things out of our control. This is one more thing. I want to recognize also the hardship that this is going to put folks down in South Kenmore in particular for those 10 months. It's going to be a rough 10 months, and we are going to be breaking the promise that we made to folks that we were going to be trying to keep 2 lanes open as much as possible. And that's going to be a tough pill for a lot of folks to swallow. So I assume that we're going to have some really strong communication with folks so that expectations are very clear as to what folks will be facing. And kind of going off what Councilmember File just said, I hope that we are, and I assume we are, but the other major stakeholder that is going to be impacted will be Bothell from folks driving through Wayne to get down to the same area. I know that's the way my wife will probably be heading when she goes to work instead of going across the bridge. So we do need to make sure that we're coordinating with Bothell because they will have a pretty major impact, I think, over through the golf course and down that way. But overall, I think option 2 makes the most sense. The $3 million delta between option 1 and option 2 is just unjustifiable. There's no way that we could justify essentially spending $3 million more just to make traffic slightly better for a few months and also dragging things out longer. This is going to be painful, but it's going to be short. We'll get through it. At the end, I think we'll have a bridge that we're all proud of. So thank you for your work, John. I really appreciate it.
All right. Any more comments? Councilmember Curtis.
So as the eternal optimist on the council, one way to look at it is that if the council hadn't been proactive the last 5 or 10 years we've been working on this, and if the bridge had actually failed and we'd had to close it down, we would have had a 1 bridge, 1 lane each way for 5 years. This is only 10 months.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of echo and take off of what Councilmember Herbig said. My initial reaction, which I didn't say earlier, was we absolutely promised or tried to promise that we would keep 2 lanes open, and that my gut reaction was, oh my goodness, we need to do that. But then as I was talking to people and thinking more about it, we also promised or tried to promise that it would be a 3-year project. So I had to be fiscally responsible. So there, you know, the more I thought about it, there were other things we tried to promise as well.
True. Councilmember O'Kane.
I want to thank Mr. Vicente for his hard work on this project and thorough planning that you have put forth on this. I also agree with council that option 2 does make most sense. And it's unfortunate that it will have the impacts that it will on our South Kenmore residents. I think in the long run, it's going to be worthwhile to move forward in the 10-month process. There are concerns that have been raised that I'm just going to circle back to a comment that I had made in our one-on-one. And so the concerns about safety and traffic are legitimate. And the timing impact on the girders, we recognize it is due to COVID and things that are out of our control. But given the safety concerns and duration of time that we have worked towards completing this project, and this may be already done and fully vetted, but if there is any way we could work with the county and Sound Transit to possibly ask for priority, given the impact of our project on so many and on the 522 corridor. I think it would be fantastic if we could make the ask of our council member, King County Council member and Sound Transit to see, is there anything we can do to move our 10 girders up higher in the priority? Compared to a massive project like Sound Transit, ours is small. And I think we have a strong case for the importance of these girders. So I support option 2. I encourage us to give one final try to get higher priority on girders at the manufacturer that we are assigned to at this time. And that would mean negotiating and working with other local authorities. So thank you.
Any other comments? City Manager.
Yeah, Councilmember O'Kane raises a good point, and I made a call to Sound Transit and put in that request, and they're looking into it. So hopefully we can hear back from them soon. Also, Councilmember File had a question about response times. John, can you respond to that?
So in regards to response times, we haven't had a conversation with police or fire about whether or not they're having delays, but we did have initial meetings with them prior to construction with both fire and police and talked about the project. And they had a plan in place to make sure that they can do proper response. Again, it was viewing the camera. They have drivers that go out once in a while. The fire marshal take a look at the situation. They are prepared to coordinate with Kirkland if they need to use their services. So we're, I think we're looking good in terms of making sure that we're on top of it. Again, I leave it up to fire and police to decide what they need and don't need and what's working and not working. And I did want to mention that we did reach out to City of Bothell, City of Kirkland, King County Metro Police, Fire, North Shore School District, and North Shore Utility District regarding what's going on. I did hear back from Bothell, Kirkland Police, the school district, and NUD, and they don't have any concerns with option 2. I have yet to hear back from Metro and Fire.
All right, any more comments?
Excuse me, Mayor Baker.
Yes, Councilmember File.
Thank you, Mr. John Vicente. I really appreciate that we're coordinating with our schools. It's also important that we coordinate with our nearest hospital and our surrounding colleges. They have a very big piece of duty in our community, also in coordinating with our students and the faculty, let alone the support they provide our community. So in helping them prepare for their staff and their faculty changes, they need a little bit of advance notice, and we could be good stewards and good partners to our neighbors this way if we could do that. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? So I believe there's a motion to move forward with option number 2. Sheila, would you please take the roll? Wait a minute, Member File, do you have another question, comment?
No, I don't have a question or comment, Mr. Mayor Baker. I do have a point of clarification, though. The motion was made to adopt option 2 with the alternative amendment there, and that's what we are voting on.
I didn't hear an amendment to it.
No, it wasn't an amendment, it's the additive.
It's
staff
additive.
had.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So option 2
With-
with the additive. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Shrevenick,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember File,
Yes.
Councilmember Curtis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herbig,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Kane.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
Thank you very much. All right. Next item on the agenda, there is no staff report tonight. Councilmember comments and reports. Councilmember O'Kane.
I do have a comment today. I hadn't planned on a comment today, but given public comment today, I do have a couple of comments that I am going to make. One, I want to thank the Chapatadapong family for their contributions to our community. I want to share that I do regret not jumping on the opportunity to make the motion to stop the ordinance on the 13th. I hesitated, and I am sorry for that. I also want to say that I am thankful for the pause for the silver lining of learning the good and valuable contributions they have made, the high regard so many people have for this family, and the importance of this property. I personally, I know where I stand with this decision. I don't think it rises to the level of eminent domain for our public works. But I know we have chosen a process here, but I wanted to state that I have become more grounded in my position. I think our community has brought forward very legitimate and valid issues with this property on multiple levels. I think it's incredibly important that our city come through with the transparency requests that have been made of us. And I am very grounded with where I am, but if we are able to come to an amicable agreement and arrangement with the Chapatadapong family that honors them and their commitments to our community, it's something I could support. But as it is today, I feel very grounded where I am. Anyway, I will stop there. But the other comment that I have to say is I want to thank our community for coming forward for another very deep, robust session of citizen comment. And it is integral to our democracy that people take the chance to come forward and speak. I'll never forget the first time I spoke at public comment. And it was after I started to run for council, and I was nervous, and I was making an affirmative comment. But making a comment, standing your ground in opposition to something that feels like it's not coming your way, takes courage. And it is so important. And it is so important that we have a welcoming council that can listen and stand by to hear comments, regardless of whether we agree with them or not. The perspectives of our community matter and can't be taken personally. And Mayor, this is directly for you. We voted for you to represent us because of the good you've done for our community. And I know you take great pride in the good that you have done here. I just want to ask that you don't diminish your contributions with continued irresponsible comments on council. Your comments last week and on the 13th in particular. Excuse me, I just need to state that you're our mayor. I never want to make a comment like this again at council. Thank you.
Councilmember Marshall.
I'd like to also reiterate my appreciation for all the comments that we hear week in and week out, regardless of the subject, and absolutely regardless of whether I agree or disagree with what the citizens and the commentators are saying to us. And then I had a question for the city manager, if he's still there. The council had previously, I think, approved a motion to consult with the Kenmore Heritage Society about the renaming of Squires Landing and to bring that issue up again. I hadn't heard anything back yet. I don't know if perhaps you might make a call or I might make a call to reach out to the Heritage Society to see where they're at or where they're at with it.
Yeah, Nancy Owsley, our assistant city manager, has reached out, and I think they are willing to take on the project.
Great.
I also understand from the retreat that it was going to be more timed with the opening of the park, which isn't until 2023.
Okay, so it's a little bit longer term. Thank you for reminding me of that. All right, appreciate it.
Councilmember Curtis.
So I had a question on the Public Works location. We agreed to delay for 30 days, but since we won't be meeting the rest of August, is the default that it gets delayed till the next time we have a meeting? I'm not sure what happens to that motion that we won't be able to quite accomplish.
I would assume, since we're not meeting anymore, that it gets delayed until our next meeting, or perhaps a little longer, depending on staff and staff's input.
Yeah, I don't know that it'll be the next meeting, but it'll probably be sometime in the fall.
Okay.
Councilmember Shrebnick.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate, like others have, the public comment. I mean, we have had more public input, I think, in the last month by far than we have normally, and I think that's terrific. It's educated me. I've learned a lot, and it certainly influences how I think about issues. So I just want to appreciate that. And then with regard to the Public Works property, I would just maybe make a request of maybe Dawn to help us understand what we can and cannot discuss, since property acquisition is an executive session topic, and I just want to respect that and not do something inappropriate. But I would certainly love to be able to talk about that and be able to talk about the direction that I think we'd like to go, but I don't feel at liberty to do that.
If I may jump back in, I kind of have a question. So Deb and I volunteered to be part of a subgroup. Did we ever have a third person? And is that the direction we wanted to go?
Yes, I volunteered, and I'm very happy to participate on the subgroup if we continue with that.
I have some ideas, and I can send out a Word document with kind of what I'm thinking for you guys to look at.
And I also I didn't know we had I thought our decision was in executive session, so I didn't want to say that. I believe that was only discussed in executive session.
Very well could have been.
Yep, but now it's out. And
So,
I actually
Susan,
already
do you wanna
sent
jump
you
in here?
the material, Milton, so I'll send it to Melanie as well.
So I thought I saw that, but now then I couldn't find it when I went back to look at it. So maybe you can send it again. I don't know where it went. I must have lost it.
City manager, do you have anything to add to this? Nothing, okay. So I guess it's open and fair game. So it's not executive session stuff, so. All right. Councilmember File.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. First, I want to start with an update. As you heard tonight, Stacey Winsvella was explaining that the city of Kenmore has been really gracious in ensuring that our seniors at the mobile home communities are going to be connected with masks, which is a wonderful support for them, as many are stuck a little closer to home, have a later start out into the public amidst this current pandemic. And I just really want to thank the city of Kenmore, our police chief, Brandon Moen, and the King County Sheriff's Office and NUD for supplying the hand sanitizer also for the communities. We'll be picking those things up tomorrow and distributing to the senior community tomorrow, which is very exciting. Just another one of those many great works that we all can accomplish together. And today we celebrated the National Civil Rights Act of 1964. Earlier this month, last month, I guess, we recognized early women's rights acquired underneath the 19th Amendment. And of course, we can't start back and forward with voting. Voting really was supposed to be a right of American people when we formed together as a country with our founding fathers. And many of you know I'm a big proponent of history. So I just want to say that, it took a good number of years for women to earn the right to vote. And then it took many more for Black men and women to earn the right to vote and have that assured under our federal Civil Rights Act, ensuring the right to vote. And today we still experience and notice suppression. So I'm grateful that we took this step to recognize the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and national recognition as a city in Kenmore. That just is one more step of growing together and recognizing a diverse and welcoming community that we have. And of course, tomorrow is election day. So I'm going to encourage all of our community to get out and vote and participate. No matter what your vote is, your vote and your voter's voice is powerful and meaningful. So get out and vote. Drop off your voter's ballot at Kenmore City Hall, located on 68th Avenue Northeast, or make sure it's postmarked before 5 p.m. tomorrow. And I know that I just want to touch on the many wonderful families who spoke tonight. And I thought it was very meaningful. Along this process of eminent domain, it's never a pretty process, never an attractive process to go through. And note that it's not a process the city council chooses to do. It's an action of the city that we as a council are then required to make a vote upon. I'm happy we've learned about the many differences and the many lovely practices have taken place in this building. The practice of culture and education, the welcoming place of multicultural events and family gathering, and celebrating our intersectionality as a community is something that's very meaningful. And I hope that we can continue to grow to respect and value these differences that bring us together in our fabric of our society. We have not yet adopted a diversity and equity policy. We do not yet have a diversity and equity element in our environment and climate initiative, which is a normal, a standard, and usually required as having a piece to being accepted for grants. So I am looking forward to the work of Adam, our intern, to come forward soon. And so we can consider these options as council. And lastly, the agenda was published, and unfortunately, the Bee Awareness Day recognition has not yet been recognized by Mayor Baker. And so I will call upon Mayor Baker to give recognition to Bee Awareness Day. And if you do not yet have the document, I will call upon Deputy Mayor Nigel Hairbake to do that for you.
I read that proclamation at the beginning of the meeting.
The Bee Awareness Day or the voters' rights? I thought it was voters'
I did
rights.
the B, and then I did the voter rights. So I have done it. And I think the city manager can verify that because he.
Okay.
Is there anything else, Councilmember Fowl?
Yes, Mayor Baker, thank you. Lastly, I just want to make note that I've lost faith in you as our mayor. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed at the public comments that you've made to hurt our community. I'm disappointed in the way you treated other women in our community who you've heard tonight as well, and the way I've been treated in the past. So I recognize and respect the decision of the council's past vote. I will have to go with that. But I certainly hope that you can grow to practice a little bit more discretion in your words you choose and your actions you take. Otherwise, I will want to move forward with a motion in the future to recall you as a mayor and have a new vote for replacing you as a mayor. And like Councilmember O'Kane did say, I hope not to have to repeat this again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fowl. Deputy Mayor.
The downside of going second to last is that my colleagues have already said better than I could many of the things I was going to say. The public comment the last few weeks has been enlightening, and it's been good to see so many folks coming forth and making sure their voices are heard. I appreciate that. We are listening. One small thing that I've noticed with public comment is when we're doing the meetings in City Hall, we're able to put a timer up on the screen behind us so that folks can see how much time they have left so they're not surprised when the end of their time comes. And I've seen other cities where they've had, maybe they just set up one Zoom person and it's just a timer sitting in front of a camera like that. And it shows on the screen so everybody can see that there's a countdown. I think I would ask that staff, and I'm not directing staff, but I'm just tossing the idea out there, in the next 4 or 5 weeks before we have another meeting, if there's any way to figure out a way to show a timer through Zoom so that folks aren't caught off guard when their time runs out, I would really appreciate that because it always kind of catches me off guard when somebody runs out of time. But other than that, I think Tila's running.
Thank you for that.
What's that?
That's a really good idea. Thank you for that.
No problem. And I think Tila's doing a great job. It's not a knock on her or anything like that. It's just something I saw at some other city, and I thought it made a lot of sense for us to try to figure that out in the next couple of weeks when we're not going to be having meetings. So anyway, that's all I have for today.
Great. Thank you. I've been somewhat busy. I was involved with a meeting with the governor here this past week, and we talked about COVID and the phases and what the plans are for the state. And it's really interesting to note I started looking at this back in April. I think there were 40 cases of COVID in Kenmore. There's now 129. So it's amazing how this continues to grow in the city. I get a meeting with Dow Constantine tomorrow where we're going to talk about the juvenile detention facility and what the plans are in the county with that. And one other thing was with the governor, it's always nice to speak with him because he remembers the time he came to Kenmore and gave us the lead certificate, and he swore me into office along with Glenn Rogers. That's something that I will never forget. And also, there is one other thing, and it has totally slipped my mind. So anyway, with that, if there's no further business to come before us, Kenmore City Council is adjourned.
Night, everyone.
Bye-bye.